Welcome to another episode of Got Time with Christopher John, your scholar and gentleman in a hoodie. But be sure to like, share, and subscribe. This episode is dedicated to Nikki Giovani. She was a renowned, relentless, and resilient voice for our community. She is celebrated for her contributions to the Black arts movement and her powerful poetry addressing social issues. I had the honor and privilege of having about 3 or 4 meaningful conversations with her early in my career. I recall the first time that I met her. I didn't know that Cincinnati was her home, being a child of Lincoln Heights. Now, if those that don't know, Lincoln Heights is the first Black self-governing village north of the Mason-Dixon line. And she has that spirit, that resilient spirit. And one of my favorite quotes by her is this: "We, Black people, have always used our creativity to battle. To build on that, we have used our creativity not only to battle, but we've used our creativity to heal, to find peace, and to restore our minds so that we can be resilient to fight and battle against all the odds." Joining me at the table is Jide Fresh. Thank you for taking the time, my brother.
It is an absolute pleasure for me to be here today. You cannot even understand the magnitude of gratitude I have in my heart to be here with you today. Such a man of your esteem for what you've done for the city, for what you've done for our community. The pleasure is all mine. So thank you for having me today.
It's mutual. Trust me, it is mutual. Now, you've been an activist for a long time. Although you don't have as many of the gray hairs like I do. I see a few, but not as many as I do. But you've been involved for a long time. I just want to start out this question of where we at right now. How are you protecting your peace during these times, these days?
You know, that is a good question. And I think that's a question that we ask ourselves, but we don't always try to find the proper answer. Mm-hmm. For me personally, is this: we live in a time in which we are actually talking about World War III, Civil War, AI robots, climate change, massive destructive elements all around us. And we don't know how to feel about it because we've never dealt with that before. In this time, we have to think about how do we take care of our individual selves. Mm-hmm. And this is nothing new. We've always had to take care of our individual selves, because if we can't take care of ourselves, we can't take care of the people that we love and care for. We live in a time where things are driving us crazy. And in those crazy things, whether it's social media, the news, 24-hour news cycles, the politics things going on, it is time for us to sometimes unplug and get back to the root. Natural elements, environment, our people that we love and care for. Mm-hmm. We can make a change, and we will make a change for the better. But we cannot do that if we do not change the things within ourselves. And this is where I feel like we're at. Where we must protect our individual selves in order to benefit our collective self.
Lauryn Hill line came to me: you can't be right if you ain't right within, you know?
Absolutely.
And so, I mean, I've seen you evolve over the years, mm-hmm. As far as your work. And I was quite surprised to see what you have been investing a lot of your time in recently. And it's these wonderful, brilliant coloring books. And so can you tell me and share your journey towards creating these coloring books that that you see right here on the table?
Hey, in 2018, I got hit by a car and almost died, right? For 3 years, I had to mourn my life. Went through having to physically heal, learn how to walk again properly, getting myself together. But also in that process, that ordeal, I went through a divorce, family court, and all these different things that come along with that. My mental health was down the drain. And in 2021, after, during the pandemic, but after pandemic, I had to come to a conclusion that bad things happen to every single one of us. But I had a decision on how I'm going to be able to deal with it and respond to it. And I decided that I will not let this break me down, but build me up. That was the first decision. Mm-hmm. Now, in that process of the rebuilding from 2021 on, I was dealing with a lot of things: anxiety, mental health, depression, just a lot of things going on. And I needed to find the things that would work for me. So the first book, specifically Weed and Zen's, about going through those hard times, learning from it, moving forward with gratitude in my heart for the bad things that happen. So these are breathing techniques, these are journaling, this is writing, these are things I did on myself. Mm-hmm. Now, at the time, I couldn't see that what I was making for myself was going to benefit others. Mm-hmm. But I kind of consolidated everything, put into a book, more so just out of real interest of can I do it? It was a distraction from my mind, but it ended up being received so amazingly that I've kind of figured out that I have something different, something new here, and to keep going with it. So each of the books kind of mirrors what I'm dealing with in life at the time. Mm-hmm. So going through hard times, cool, come from out of it. The next part is that I had to look at my new life, my new future, my second life, and I had to realize that I have to walk with intention in that life. So Hustle and Motivate's about manifesting life that you want through your actions, your intentions, and your habits. Fantastic. Bad and Bushido, samurai philosophy, anime aesthetic, and it's all about overcoming the hurdles that are in your way. You have this new life. What can take that life away from you? And that's not being disciplined. So these are things that I'm learning within my life and having to practice on a daily basis. The books are a reflection of my learning, this life education, and people are able to take that journey with me. So that's where it comes from.
Okay. And so I know that you talked about you have these, the three that are in front of me. Mm-hmm. These are for adults.
Yeah. So
and then you have a series for an adults, mm-hmm. and then you have a series as well for the our young people.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit about the books for the young people?
So the books for the young people are Scribble and Scrawl for ages about 4 through 8, Jits and Jots for 8 through 10, Capes and Come Ups for 11 on up. Mm-hmm. And the whole idea behind it is that it's not just adults that are going through things. We're teaching our children how to deal with this life as well. So each book focuses on different educational aspects. The first two are handwriting and cursive handwriting. The third one, Capes and Come Ups, for a more mature audience, for 11, 12, 13-year-olds on up, is about how do you deal with the things you're going to confront as a teenager. Because ultimately, as parents, we recognize that what we want to see for our children is for them to become successful, adapted adults. This is what we want. So we have to pour these resources and ideas into them at the earliest age possible. And they have to become comfortable with working on themselves. These books are a part of that process. I want our children, our youth, to be confident and comfortable in dealing with things within themselves that they need to change and doing the work. So this is part of that work.
So, I mean, when you were in that dark place, were you seeking out coloring books? And I asked that question because I have a colleague that I had a conversation with probably about a couple weeks ago. Mm-hmm. And for her, how she finds peace and resolve away from the hustle of being, a scholar and being conscious about what's going on in our country. For her, getaway is she uses coloring books. Yeah. And so my question to you is, before you created your own coloring books, were you doing that as well?
Not at all.
Oh, okay.
Not at all. Hadn't touched them. Now, I do have a background in graphic design. I have a background in making flyers for protests. As you mentioned earlier, I've been involved with activism since 2000. And so part of the activism is I would make flyers for what we're doing. Mm-hmm. So that was my foundational core of doing art, was making flyers, protest flyers, organizational flyers, and things like that. And so I took that education, took that experience, and I had done stuff for corporate and for nonprofits and, these types of things. But I hadn't done anything that I consider fine art. Mm-hmm. So this right here was taking those skill sets and using them in a different type of way. Now, I didn't really touch coloring books at all. I had no interest. Mm-hmm. What I had an interest in was making, creating, manifesting these ideas. And so I took my experiences and I said, you know what, can I do this? And so in the midst of the things I was going through, I realized I needed escape. Mm-hmm. And that escape couldn't be drugs. It couldn't be alcohol. It couldn't be video games or TV and random types of things. I needed something that was productive. Learning how to make this, right? Mm-hmm. Coming up with these ideas, working on this. It was my personal escape. But in the escape, I recognized that sometimes you don't have to tune out. You got to tune in. Mm-hmm. And so focusing on that work helped me to tune in to what I was feeling, what I was going through, and ultimately what I wanted to do in the world.
Mm. So you look within yourself as far as to pour out what you're producing, exactly. What you have here. And so I was looking through them as well. And although I call them, and I think you call them as well as coloring books, mm-hmm. There is quite a bit of text and information that's in here. You give historical facts. Absolutely. I see when I was going through them. Absolutely. As well as advice with dealing with self-discipline. You talk about nature and so forth. And so you have quite a bit here. So it's almost as if you're converging almost like a self-help book with illustrations.
Absolutely. So that is true. That's a very good observation. So in the books, they include games, activities, fun facts, philosophy, some history, mm-hmm. short stories, a playlist, workbooks, and positive affirmations. The idea is this, right? Is that whoever you are and whatever you're dealing with, we're not all coming from the same place. We have different things that interest us. So instead of asking people to come to us, right? Mm-hmm. We both went to college, graduated. We read some good text manuals, some good literature, all type of stuff. That's fantastic. Really helped me out tremendously in my life. But asking somebody who is not acquainted with collegiate level, writings to come and say, hey, check out this book that could be very helpful for you. It's going to be overwhelming. It's daunting. So instead of them coming to us, how about we make literature and materials that can be related to on multiple levels? We go to them. So one of the topics I use is anime. People love anime.
I was going to ask you about that, yeah.
For a good reason, right? My personal favorite anime is shonen, which is anime which focuses on like teenage boys generally, right? Mm-hmm. And they have to overcome something. They lost their parents. They were castaways. Something happened to them, and they had to level up. And during the time the ordeal I was having, I had to level up because I lost everything. Mm-hmm. And so I'm watching this, and instead of saying, oh, that's so cool, I'm thinking to myself, like, I'm in my own anime. I'm in my own redemption arc right now. Like, I need to figure out how do I level up myself in such a way that I can become the person I'm supposed to be. Why do I have these hard times if it's not meant to teach me something? So let's use different topics that interest people already. Go to those topics and find the help, and discover what needs to be discovered from those areas. And that's really the books themselves. So we don't just call them coloring books, kind of a misnomer. Mm-hmm. We call them mesh books, mental, emotional, social health books. Mm. And that way we kind of think about them as coloring activity books because we mesh different concepts together as well.
Mesh books.
Mm-hmm.
I like that acronym for it. That's powerful. And the use of anime, because I see it, I instantly recognize, I see the influence with anime that's in there. And the only reason I'm aware of it is because of my daughters. And they are totally into anime as well as their friends. And I sit down and I watch it. It doesn't connect with me as much, but I know that there's a strong audience that these mesh books will actually connect with. Absolutely. Because of that connection with anime. So I mean, so you have 3 here. We have 6 on the table. Mm-hmm. I believe you have one other one volume, right? Mm-hmm. So I mean, so now that you are on the other side of your journey, I would say you came up out the valley.
Come on,
the darkness and so forth. And so, what now is your source of inspiration to continue the work?
That's a good question. The inspiration is this. It's just like the black and white pages of the coloring book are not complete. Mm-hmm. I'm incomplete as well. I got work to do. I am not at my top pinnacle. There's another mountain I want to climb, and I want to get there. So even my own personal journey, it's really about how to become the best version of myself, because the best version of myself is going to be able to protect and to provide and inspire the people that I love around me. And then even more so, I can inspire the people I don't even know. Like, that's such a blessing to be able to take this work that came from your head. And I really don't even take all full credit. I give credit to the Most High because it just flowed to me and I picked it up, Mm-hmm. But to take that work, put it out there for people to buy it, purchase it, support it, read it, and then come back to you randomly and say, hey, this is what this meant to me. If you would have told me 5 years ago that this would be my life, I would have been like, you must be playing, man. You're messing with me.
Right.
But to have people in multiple cities contact me, see me on the street, and just tell me what this meant to them is the biggest blessing I could have ever had. How can I be a part of making an even stronger and larger impact? That's what's motivating me right now.
Right. In addition to this, you're still continuing to do a lot of things. I've seen your activism evolve. Mm-hmm. I believe it has even taken you overseas.
Absolutely.
Can you share your experience that you had overseas that really advanced your evolution, I would say, and who you are and how you move and act even in present day?
Very good question, actually. See, it's wild how things happen. It's like, you see, sometimes you got to step out there. You have to step out there, even when it's not comfortable. I'm going to tell you the story about how I met this man named Chris Lubkaman.
Well, he has a good first name. I know that for sure.
A great first name. That's the homie right there. Now, if you could imagine back in 2022, it is around December 21st, 2nd, 3rd. It is cold outside. And we're making a living selling products, selling our books and art. Mm-hmm. And so I have my daughter out there with me, and she didn't want to go because we were in Washington Park this morning. Mm-hmm. Frigid, cold, icy. Why are we out here? This is crazy. My daughter said, nobody's going to show up. Let's not even go. My niece was living with me at the time, Abby. And I said, Abby, girl, come on. Girls, we going to the park. And she's like, nah, I'm going with my dad. I'm out. And it was very tempting to say, let's stay home because it is freezing out here.
Right.
But when you have something, you have to move along with it no matter what. So we're out here in Washington Park, and this tall man comes up, and he's like, hey, I like this piece of art I was selling. I would like to purchase it. And now, I'm not around. My daughter's right there. I'm kind of walking around talking to other vendors because it is kind of slow. Mm-hmm. She runs over and say, hey, this man would like to buy a piece of art. I said, great. So I come over there, and because of him buying art, I gave him an extra book as well, Bad and Bushido. And he said, can you sign it? I said, not right now, but this is what I'll do. Here's my card. You can call me. And if you're in the city, I will come to you wherever you're at. And he did. Most people wouldn't even call me. Mm-hmm. See, it's funny how people are brought into your life. This man looked through the book, met him about a week later, looked through the book, and said, I like how you take complex ideas and break them down in a manner in which the average everyday person can understand. He said, I would like for you to come to Switzerland. This is who I am. This is what I do. I said, okay, sure. People say things all the time, right?
Right.
But people don't often mean them. He meant it. So 6 months later, my daughter and I are in Switzerland in the middle of the Alps in a completely different world. And we're surrounded by scientists, environmentalists, philosophers, and activists who are concerned about climate change within our planet and what it's going to mean for humanity. Now, what Chris didn't understand is that we actually aligned on that. I became a vegetarian years ago because I recognized that my eating meat had a negative impact on our planet's climate. He didn't know that. But we were able to connect and relate, and I saw the work that this man is doing, bringing people from around the world together to work on this very specific issue that impacts every single one of us. We cannot escape our environment. We cannot escape our climate. Racism, sexism, classism, and every other ism all falls to the wayside if we have a planet that we can inhabit. So there was an alignment in the way we saw things. And I recognized very quickly that I want to surround myself with people who are working towards a greater good for a global basis. And so it was transformational, to say the least.
Now, was that your first time abroad?
No, not at all. Okay. Definitely wasn't my first time abroad. First time back to Europe since in about 10 years.
Okay.
And going to Zurich, Switzerland was an amazing experience. And I ended up doing it twice. And God willing, I'll go back again. But it's something that I think that all of us should have opportunities to travel, to have rest, to be unencumbered for a second, to leave your world behind, and to be around other people who are building. I wish that for all of us.
That's powerful. That's powerful. So, I mean, with all the things that you're working on, I mean, one of the questions I definitely want to, and you've already addressed it. You know, I often find myself getting socially fatigued with all the madness that's going on and chaos. And so finding balance.
Right.
And I think that's what a lot of us are challenged with, is finding that balance, because that balance is what preserves our health, you know, in doing that. And so I look at these mesh books that you're creating, is you're achieving balance within your own life by creating them. And you're providing an opportunity for balance in others that purchase and use them and read them, and so forth. So it's some good work that you are doing, my brother.
And hopefully this is God's work, you know. And balance is interesting, right? I love the idea of balance, but I found myself being the most creative during times where I'm not balanced. It's an imbalance, you know, because it's creatives. I don't know, maybe you can agree that there's times when you're so inspired that it's hard to go to sleep at night. There's times you're so inspired you wake up early. So as I tell my children, I said, find something that you can that inspires you so much that it keeps you up late at night and it wakes you up early in the morning. And I found that. Now, there's other aspects that we should be balanced in, but we should also be comfortable with the imbalance that life brings us. If you got an idea, run with it. Things may get a little crazy, but what you'll find at the end of that session, that whether it's a day or a month or 2 months or a year, is that you'll create something so amazing that you recognize balance is all an illusion. So balance is something to search for, but also recognize that you got to be able to deal with the chaos.
Right.
That chaos is where you create it. So I'm inspired. I want people to like listen to what I'm saying and recognize that it's more than just finding a peaceful space. It's more than just even finding peace. Sometimes you got to create peace. Sometimes you got to fight for peace. Sometimes you got to fight to maintain the peace. And sometimes you got to just use that chaos to create something. Right. I said, going back to what we were talking about earlier, man, we live in a crazy time. Where's the peace at? You know, we hope that we find peace in our homes, right? But for many of us, when we step out these doors, there is no peace to be found. It's been for about 400 years now. We can have the illusion of peace, but many of us recognize that at any given time, anything crazy can happen, and that peace is shattered in a second. So we don't find that peace indoors, outdoors, whatever. We have to deal with it and live with it and still create in spite of.
Right. I think the piece is in the creativity. You know, while you were speaking, it made me think about, you know, we are a century removed from the Black art renaissance.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
You know, so it was going on during the 1920s. Yeah. And so from a historical perspective, when I look at that time period, I find amazing is that you have this outpouring of creativity, right? You have poetry, you have song, you have dance, you have intellectual thoughts, you know, that are coming out amid the social climate of the 1920s.
Come on now.
Black folks are still being lynched.
I mean, 1919.
With impunity.
Absolutely.
You know, finding opportunities for housing, finding opportunities for upward, you know, mobility, you know, is a challenge. And yet you have Black folks pouring in their creativity, you know, with those challenges. And so that's what it made me think about from a historical text.
I mean, we are magic. We are magic. To have everything stripped from us, taken from us, for us to be put in such a situation and we still come out alive, singing, dancing, creating, making, discovering. Man, we are magic. Man, I think about that time period as well. The 20s was such an interesting time period and how it's mirrored so much from 1919, soldiers coming back from World War I, the Red Summer, which crazy enough was not unlike all the protests that were going on in 2019, Breonna Taylor and things like that, right? And how much creativity came from that, how much connection came from that. I think it shows that when we connect with each other, look what we build. When we support each other, look what we build. Peace doesn't always happen, right? But our connection is something that needs to be made stronger. The 1920s, literally, if we're just talking about the economy alone, not wars or anything like that, the 1920s leading up to the 1928 financial, you know, Great Depression. I mean, we're kind of right there again.
Right.
I mean, it's 2026, and in a couple years, this whole economy could collapse. How are we going to survive? What we're going to do? And it's going to take us realizing that we cannot go back to these jobs that don't exist. They don't exist. It's purported that AI may take away millions of jobs.
Right.
They don't exist. So what do? Do we sit and starve? Or do we go back and pull from within inside of ourselves and we create and we sell to each other and buy from each other and work with each other? That's our answer. See, a lot of the things that we're dealing with, we don't have to go into the future and wonder what's going to happen. We got to go back into the past and look what our ancestors did and see how they survived. Because many of our ancestors, they were kind of able to kind of come through the Great Depression relatively unscathed because they didn't have a lot to begin with, right? And so there wasn't a lot to take away. But it also broke that dependence away from the white power structure. And these folks would say, you know what? We got each other, and that's all we need. We're in a new age, but some things stay the same. We have each other. That's all we need.
We have each other. That's all we need. That's powerful. Definitely before, you know, our time is up, I want to ask you, so we're in 2026. So what is forthcoming for you in 2026?
You know, 2026, I'm looking to be a growth year. I'm going to tell you exactly what it is I would like to see. I would like to work with schools. I would like to work with organizations, nonprofits. I would like to work with even corporate and also jails and juvenile justice. I believe that we have something special that we can give, create, work with to be able to support each of these organizations. Our company wants to be in schools. And we want to be able to make that impact, especially on the younger audience. We see, you know, that our young folks who will not be young for long, right? They're going to a world in which they're going to have to be able to keep their minds together in ways we never could imagine. Now, this is true. This is new. We have never seen this before.
Right.
And And I want to be able to start off early with them, to give the resources to them so that they're able to be able to adjust as much as possible and still come out creating, connecting, working together.
That's powerful. Well, I mean, you've thrown it out there in the atmosphere. You manifested. I can definitely see you being involved in schools and doing this. And, definitely you have my support in that venture and that endeavor moving forward. I just want to tell you thank you. I appreciate you taking the time to come to the table.
Man,
I'm glad that you had time to join me at the table and just keep doing the good work that you're doing, my brother.
hey, thank you very much. And for you, man, I'll come to any table with you, man. And likewise, I really appreciate that you are taking voices that may not seek a platform to be able to speak on, and you're asking very insightful questions. Keep doing that work, and anything I can do to support you, just let me know.
I appreciate it. It's mutual. At times I find myself exhausted with the complicit behavior when we're talking about inhumane circumstances, policies that go on. The battles we have today are branches of a tree with long roots, deep roots that place self over community, that place greed over giving, war over peace, capital gain over humanity, and insecurity over giving, and over resilience. A spirit that chooses not to abide by the standard it promotes, but aligns with laws, orders, and policies that degrades and devalues humanity. So we must restore our peace and create greater resilience and be fit for the battle. Protect your peace by all means necessary to create your own resilience. I am Christopher John, your scholar and gentleman in a hoodie. Know thy history.